All right, everyone, welcome and thank you for tuning in to UFC Free Bet Picks. Today we are breaking down Santos versus Teixeira. It is UFC Vegas 13, yes, and UFC on ESPN Plus 40. Really exciting card tonight. We actually have some really good fighters. So we will get into all that in a second. We're going to start with the prelims, just do separate videos for each matchup. But before we get into that, we want to reveal the winner for our raffle. So we've got all the commenters here on these little cards. We're going to toss these in the little bowl here, and then maybe you'll say the answer to the trivia question, and then we'll announce the winner.
Yeah, and the trivia question was, out of 584 UFC fighters that had enough striking volume at distance, so not in the clinch, not on the ground, 500 strikes thrown, 500 strikes thrown at them. There's 584 fighters with enough volume to qualify. Which of those fighters has the best margin between their percentage landed versus the percentage that gets landed on them? It's kind of like asking who's the best striker in UFC history. Of course, it doesn't take things into account like their level of competition, but super cool trivia question. The fighter is going to be fighting, he wants to fight in November and December, so you're going to have opportunities to drop this trivia question on your friends. The answer is the Trailblazer, Kevin Holland. It's going to be a fighter with long reach. It's going to be someone with good defensive footwork, that uses their height and reach. Kevin Holland, the more you think, it becomes kind of obvious. Anderson Silva, we had some great comments. People guessing, Anderson Silva, they were saying, maybe old school Anderson Silva might have qualified. He was very elusive. Now he's getting hit a lot. And they were right on the money with those comments. So pretty cool trivia question. I hope you all enjoy it. Interestingly, Cain Velasquez and Khabib kind of own the record if you incorporate ground strikes as well, which again makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get these crumpled up and we'll figure out our winner.
So we got Andre Vasilevich, Leo Setu, Emil Sardarian, Grant Duville, Jonathan Sawyer, Rocky, Rafael Torres, Mr. Chunky Waffles, Jared Meyerson, Dill Singh, Mr. Classic, Joshua Rivera, Beat the Bookies UFC Bets. Follow him. It's a good YouTube page. Kareem Munoz, Yusuf I, Michael Tully, Dom Skenga, Igo Zumanov 420, Mikey Lowe 23, Evan Zung.
All right. All in here. We're going to mix this up. All right.
All right. Let's see who we got. The winner is, thank you all, Jonathan Sawyer. So we'll hit you up on YouTube or DM us on Instagram. We'll either send you the $25 free bet via PayPal or Cash App, or we'll place it for you and send you the winnings. And I think there are a lot of good opportunities on this card to use that.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into our first fight here.
Can I mention? Sorry, real quick. So we're gonna have another video on Friday after the weigh-ins. We'll have another giveaway and trivia question that day.
Ooh.
Sorry.
All right. Getting into our first prelim fight here is Max Griffin versus Ramiz Brahimaj. So Max Griffin is the favorite at -177. He's got a record of 15-8. Of those 15 wins, he's got 7 by KO, 6 by decision, 2 by submission. And those 8 losses, 7 of those by decision, 1 by KO. Ramiz Brahimaj is the underdog at +140. He's got a record of 8-2, all of those wins by submission, the guillotine being one of his favorite methods of submission, and those 2 losses both by unanimous decision. Moving into their UFC records, Griffin has a record of 3-6, and Brahimaj is debuting in the UFC on Saturday. So Griffin has a lot of, good cardio. Lots of his fights go to decision. He's got decent boxing. Brahimaj, obviously his strengths are submission. Every single one of his 8 fights is won by submission. He's a good wrestler, good at takedowns. So it's an interesting matchup here. Griffin is the favorite. I kind of like Ramiz just because I like his fighting style. He just gets in there and takes people down, and it's exciting to watch. But what do you think about this one, Aaron?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Ramiz has been off for a long time. He had a tumor behind his eye, so he had a couple fights scheduled and canceled. Long layoff. I don't think it's very concerning. He's a young guy. He has had cardio issues in the past, and in one of his recent interviews, he said, he had nothing to work on when he couldn't spar, he couldn't do any contact. So I think his cardio will be better. Of course, you don't build fight cardio by riding on a bike or jogging because,
Right.
you get tired when you're wrestling or when you're striking, you're holding your hands above your head for 15 straight minutes. His jiu-jitsu game is really legit, and he's not a guy who has to pull guard. He goes in there in offensive grapples. Like Ali said, great takedowns, offensive submissions. He often submits these guys in the first minute, and these are legit fighters. These aren't people making their debut. When he's lost, it's because he couldn't get it to the ground, he couldn't capitalize, and he got gas. People are worried about his gas tank. I think it's a little bit overstated. Max Griffin does have nice cardio, as Ali mentioned. He's finished some fights in the third round. I honestly don't think he's fought that great of competition in the UFC. He lost to Alex Oliveira. People acted like that was a bad decision or something because Max Griffin ended round 3 on top, but he hadn't done anything. He lost before that to Alex Morono. He beat Zalim Amadaev, who we saw recently and is a decent fighter. But he lost to Thiago Alves. His best win that people kind of think of when they think of Max Griffin was beating Mike Perry 6 fights ago. Interestingly, his game plan in that fight was kind of what he needs to do this fight. He used his length. It was very technical. He never throws a lot of kicks. He's pretty much a straight boxer with good takedowns. And in that fight, he just kind of used his length and kept Mike Perry away from him. And it was a good fight by him. It's what he needs to do against Ramiz. Mm-hmm. I see this similar to the Feely-Bryce Mitchell matchup where I don't think Max Griffin's going to fight for 15 minutes and avoid standing scrambles that give Ramiz his opportunity. And Ramiz is a beast. He's very strong, very explosive with his takedowns and stuff. He's not like a Damian Maia. Don't blow me up in the comments, but as far as his game plan, his style is more like Khabib going in there and submitting people when he could be pounding them out and chooses to submit them. He's not submitting people off his back. Ramiz is the first, and we're not always looking for live dogs. We play favorites in parlays. Ramiz is the first underdog pick of the night. We've had 2 really chalky cards in a row where almost every favorite's won. The only one really is Thiago Moises. And, Zalim Imadaev, Ramiz, Brahimaj, I think he's gonna be a future star. We've seen some of these guys coming in making their debut off hot streaks, and I see no reason that to think that Max Griffin's gonna completely outclass the guy. The line, as Ali said, is about 148. We haven't seen any props yet. I think Ramiz by submission is not going to be that juicy as you might think. He's plus 138. Him by submission is probably only plus 200 because people really know that's his path to victory. The pace that Max Griffin puts on, the takedown defense that he has shown does give some promise. He kind of does like a plum. He just wants to put his elbows on your chest. He doesn't really shoot for digs and double unders and get his butt away. He kind of wants to just get his elbows into you and stay away. Ramiz is really good with tricky, chain wrestling. He'll go for a trip. He has lots of ways to get you down. I think he's going to get Max Griffin down. I don't think he's going to just submit him. Max Griffin hasn't been submitted in a long time. But I think Ramiz is going to win 2 rounds, and I think it's great value on him. This should absolutely be a pick'em. I think next fight, Ramiz is going to be a huge favorite, whoever he fights. There's not a lot of guys that can really deal with his offensive wrestling and submission game. Yeah. Really exciting one. This is one of the main fights that we got to wait and see the weigh-ins, because this can take a tough pick'em fight to all of a sudden become an extremely easy to pick fight at great value if one of these guys looks weak at the weigh-ins. Yeah. So Friday, they're at about noon Eastern time, but we're going to be having our recap shortly after that, because they take a few hours to watch them, and then you got the stare downs. So we'll have all that for you, in terms of who's biggest, when we think 2 fighters are an even size and then they match up and one's way bigger than the other, or when people make weight, or have trouble making weight. Most importantly, so keep an eye open for that video Friday. I would not place any bets until then. We were looking at guys like Alexander Romanov, who we'll talk about later. And early in the week, we wanted to catch them at decent lines. I was getting them at like minus 250, minus 264. Now he's minus 300 on every sports book. At this point, and as of right now, Tuesday afternoon, the prop bets are not out yet for him. They're out for like 3 fights. But Romanov inside the distance, you just got to wait at this point and hammer him inside the distance because he's going to win. So when there's opportunities like that, that the Alexander Romanov line is going to move early in the week, you go ahead and hit it. At this point, you should all be waiting to place your bets until Friday. Do not place a bet between Tuesday and Friday. There's no reason to. There's no reason to place a bet between today and Friday. This Max Griffin versus Ramiz fight is one that we really need to see the weigh-ins for, I think.
Yeah.
But we're good. We're doing it. We're and it's not just, I'm not just picking Ramiz at plus, and she picked him straight up before we saw the lines and we were watching tape. We were both all over Ramiz. It's not just that he's at plus 138. It's not because I'm looking for a live dog. I think he's going to beat Max Griffin. Yeah,
the first highlight I watched of his is, I actually don't know who it was up against. It's probably an older fight. But he had him in a chokehold, and it was kind of a weird angle that the ref was at. And so Ramiz just kind of turned him around and was like, hey, he's out. You need to call it. Because, he knew he was out. Didn't want to, let go and not get the submission. So that just impressed me right away.
Yeah.
So DraftKings, let's look at their fantasy. Max Griffin is coming in at 8,600. His average point per fight is 59.2. Let's see. Brahimaj, DraftKings price is 7,700, and he doesn't have a points per fight yet because it is his UFC debut. It looks like the Tapology survey disagrees with us on who to pick, but I really think Ramiz, is going to take this one. But that Tapology survey had Griffin at 72%. Of that 72%, it was overwhelmingly by decision. A small little percentage think he might knock out Ramiz. Ramiz was at 28%. Surprisingly, not overwhelmingly by submission, even though he's won all of his fights by submission. It was about half and half of that 28% thought either decision or submission. So, you putting either of these guys in?
Yeah, Tapology voters are really smart. So kind of as I mentioned, it seems obvious that if Ramiz is going to win, it's going to be by sub. But no, half the Tapology voters that are picking him think he's going to win by decision.
Yeah.
That 59, fantasy points per fight for Max Griffin, that is not enough. And he's
expensive too.
Yeah, at 8,600. I would pass him in cash games and GPP. Obviously, Ramiz at 7,700. If he wins, 50-50 chance apparently that it's by finish, by submission. I think Ramiz would be a great play in especially in the guaranteed prize pools where you're looking for finishers and you're looking for live dogs. In cash games, you just want guaranteed winners. But Max Griffin, even if I was picking Max Griffin to win this fight, I don't think he's a good DFS play. In the his 60 points per fight, 59 points per fight kind of shows that.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to add about this?
No,
fight?
Really. I will say often the first night of the fight ends up in the optimal lineup. It's often fireworks. It's often a finish. I think so, and I think it's going to be Ramiz getting a ton of new fans Saturday.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it.
All right. Well, we are going to get this one started uploading for you guys, and be sure to tune in to our other videos. We're going to be breaking down each fight in this card in its own separate video. So make sure you like and subscribe so you can watch all of those. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All right. We will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for tuning in.